My passion began many years ago. I think when I was about 6 or 7. I feel that was the first time when I literally started to listen the sound of the wind. And that was the magic moment where I felt something deeper and something greater in my life. Then I also experienced similar thing in the church. A guy who arrived into our church played the organs, very beautiful, amazing organs. That moment was like a conversation with a God. Then, of course, during many years and growing up and my teenage time, the music was always like an accompany my life. And I have noticed that actually the sound is memorable, which means I remember part of my lives with the certain music that I listened that time. About 19 years ago, I met an instrument that you can see behind me, which is the gong. And within the gong, actually, many of my life experiences change. I start to live more true with myself, respecting my needs and my beliefs. And simply I realized this sound literally influenced my consciousness, influenced my awareness. After I started to play the gong and share with other people and share the benefit I have received from that sound, I have realized that the power of this sound or this energy that comes out of this instrument in some way interact with the human body, with human mind, with human emotions and feelings, and in some way has a much better access to our feelings because it seems like it's keep the mind. Over the years, I have realized also that incorporating other instruments into the sound field, we can shift and change the soundtrack, the music that we provide for the listeners, and the listener can literally project different parts and different types and different sceneries of his own movie that he's projecting while we are playing the music. In some way I can say this is like big soup that we cook during the sound ceremony, and in that soup we have many different part of elements that we add to the soup, like different songs, different instruments that are coming from many different parts of the world, some of them from very indigenous, very ancient tribes, some of them are coming from very modern and present society and people who just discover some amazing instruments that I have found out that they have really tremendous influence on our feelings. So generally the sound ceremony or sound session that we offer is for you to feel your inner world. You can connect with your parents, with parents of your parents. The next part of understanding the nature of the sound, it was to finding out that the sound is also ruled by the elements. Elements so close to us because the same elements rule us, our bodies, and the nature that is surrounding us. Earth, fire, water, air, ether. And this is actually the goal that I went into relationship and contact with Johannes Heimrath. The children of our relationships you can experience as a gongs of elements. But during the sound session we provide also these elements in many different settings, including real water, drops of water that you are literally bathed with them. So this all gives the participant or listener the real experience of relationship between them and the elements that are surrounding us and creating this matrix we are experiencing.
My passion started, well, before I can remember, I suppose. But music was always a very important part of our family life as a child, as growing up. And I actually remember specifically this kind of strong spiritual connection with music and with the sound of my own voice. When I was very young, we lived in Argentina, in a very, very remote place where the most luxurious vehicle was a tractor, and we had one. And so we used to travel 15 kilometers along these bumpy dirt tracks through the forest to get to town once a month. And it was really noisy, and you're sitting on this kind of wheel of the tractor and so at some point, and I have this very vivid memory, I started to sing, to hum, and to make up songs about whatever I was feeling, I suppose, during those journeys. And there was one particular time that I remember suddenly realizing we're home. And I didn't even notice from when we left town until we got home, because I was so in that singing, whatever it was that I was singing, and it was very magical. "15 years ago, I met the gong, and it was the beginning of something new in my life, something that has expanded and grown ever since in ways that at that moment I would never have imagined. It was a very, very deep experience. In that moment, without knowing, the gong had actually walked into my life rather than me walking into the life of the gong. Shortly after this experience, I started to organize workshops in Argentina for gong playing, for bringing these sounds to people, because it was so transformational. We do this through combining many, many different instruments, which if you looked at them, you would probably say, oh, that's not an instrument, that's a stick. But of course, a stick is an instrument. It just depends what you use it for. Or a feather is an instrument. You know, it's the instrument of flight for the birds. So we bring all of these different parts of nature into a session where we take the listener through these waves of sound. And these waves of sound are really, really important. If you think of the ocean, how it waves and it washes clean the sand on the beach with the water, the wave of sound, the wave of water comes and washes and pulls back and cleans whatever it is that needs to be washed away in that moment. We don't know, we can't judge that. But the importance of this is that through producing these sounds, through making this music, we create this tension. It's like this inhale, like we do in yoga. We inhale and we inhale deep and we hold and we create this tension, and every muscle and every part of our body feels it when we're doing it in yoga, and our spirit feels it when it comes through the sound. And then we let go and we release. And this is the most magical element of this work, of what we do, is this creating this tension and releasing, and inhale and exhale. And of course the gongs are the masters in the creation of the tension, in the releasing the tension, in this building of something that's so magic that there is no sometimes words to describe it, that it's beyond shape and form, it's just everything and nothing, and takes you into this place where you can be everything and nothing. As a child, like I said, I discovered this ability to really connect with something different through the voice, but I lost it as I grew up, and I forgot this until I actually met the gong and sound from a different place, from a completely unknown and uncharted place for me. And it was then that I began to rediscover my voice and this power within the voice, this power that the voice, naked voice, has to bring you into the absolute present and the absolute now. With spirit, it's something that's really, for me at this point in my life, difficult to explain and put into words, because it's something that I just feel. I feel when I'm playing, when I'm singing, especially when I'm singing because it's the most obvious. I feel it in my body, and it only happens when there's no thought, and this thought, I have discovered over time, only happens through allowing the sound to take over me. And the beauty of all of that and the power of all of that is that it is so liberating. Liberating for me. I believe liberating also for the listener. The whole aim of these sessions is to take the listener into this place of non-identity or of freedom, of liberation, but sometimes through this process, in order to get there, it's like climbing a mountain. You know, you're out of breath, and the tension builds, and the tiredness builds, and it gets tenser and tenser and tenser. And this is what we bring to the listener, this climbing the mountain to get to the top of the mountain, and you've got the most amazing view. The most amazing beauty, but in order to see the beauty and to feel the beauty, you've got to be ready for it. To be ready for it, you need to just get rid of the baggage. So that's one way of looking at it. This is the experience of the listener. The other way of looking at it is that what we're doing with these sounds, with this music, with this really connecting with the spirit of sound, is creating a soundtrack for the inner movie of the listener. Each movie will be different because each one of us is different, and each movie only has significance to the person lying there. And all we do is open that space and facilitate that space for the movie, the magic, whatever you want to call it, to happen.
Sometimes during the sound session we are experiencing a hard time, hard feelings, emotions that we tend to not to face. But through these experiences we can meet our shadow. And this is also part of ourself that is waiting to be revealed and waiting to be embraced.